Hello, everyone. I'm coming back following our presentation about how to extinguish the fire of our distress, of our anger, upsetting feelings and thoughts in the moment when our buttons are pushed and we get triggered and we feel the heat literally in our body. And once we are caught in that fire, we can easily get burned ourselves and our relationships, and then it's much harder to fix that damage. So it's good to know how to handle the fire, including our emotional and mental fire. And I was mentioning about 3 steps that we can take when we feel upset in the moment, when we feel triggered, we feel activated, and when the heat grows, when the fire catches us, then we are very vulnerable in responding and reacting in the moment. So instead of reacting, we want, first of all, to push the pause button, step back, literally catch our breath, and then just watch the fire. The campfire, the fire of our feelings with different flames, with different emotions. And again, the first step is to separate ourselves from the fire, not to jump into the fire, not to allow the fire to become us, to take over us, but we separate ourselves. Okay, this is an experience that we have, but that experience, with whatever it is that we are experiencing, it's not us. We sit on the side of the fire. Okay, and it's helpful to name the emotions, because neuroscience shows that our emotions are on the right side of the brain. Our logical thinking is on the left side of the brain. And when we name the emotions for what they are, I experience sadness, I experience frustration, I experience helplessness, I experience shame. When we name them, it helps connect both hemispheres of the brain at the same time. And the science shows that it activates the so-called adaptive information processing system, where we process our emotions and thoughts towards resolution, towards health and balance, versus getting dysregulated and in further distress. So another part in this, while naming the emotion, is to use the proper grammar and not to personalize them. We are not our feelings. We are the ones experiencing our feelings. We are not our thoughts. We are the one thinking our thoughts. We are not even our body. Okay, we are the one having the experience in the body. So instead of my sadness, my frustration, my opinion, my thoughts, so that toddler stage mind, everything is mine. We don't need to hold on to everything. We can detach ourselves. We can free ourselves from especially the distressing feelings and thoughts. We don't want them in the first place. So why would we want to make them mine? Okay, we can free them. And instead of my sadness, my frustration, my anger, I'm experiencing sadness, frustration, anger, helplessness. But it's there, it's neutral, it's not personalized, it's not mine, it's not attached to me. We make it neutral and we state it in neutral terms. Okay? And this is the fire of our feelings with whatever is in there, different flames. And again, feelings are like an onion, different layers. They go from one another. And we sit by the fire. And this is the stage of where we literally catch our breath. And breathing is the core, the essential part in any method of healing and recovering and establishing the balance. Okay, it's at the core, it's the thermostat. The breathing regulates and sets up the state of our body, the state of our mind, of our feelings, and the state of our consciousness, our soul. And just to make a note here, I'm going to mention about the connection and especially the role of the breathing on all of these aspects, the body, our feelings, our mind with our thoughts, and the consciousness or the soul part. And it's very important to have them all together, because you cannot understand fully and change, if we need to, anything unless we have all parts as a whole. Okay, the body is not separate. We know that the brain with the nervous system is connected to every single cell of the body. Okay, so they're not separate. And also, as I was mentioning in the presentation about which one was first, the egg or the hen, there is, it's like a mention. Okay, not a mention. Let's not mix up metaphors here. The car metaphor case that I mentioned in our previous presentations. So there is the engine of the car with our mind, with our feelings and thoughts. There is the body of the car with all the components, and especially connected together, working together to make the car. But what's essential to remember is that we are not the car. We are the owner, the driver of this very powerful vehicle, perfectly tailored for us, that was given to us on lease at birth. We let go of it at the end of our life when the lease is over. And the purpose of owning and driving this vehicle is for us to go into all the destination and all the experience that we want to have in this life. It's for us to use it for the greatest purpose, for our own well-being and the well-being of others. Okay, so when it's about emotions, distressing emotions and thoughts, this is essential to understand. And breathing, again, is the thermostat that regulates our body state. Okay, and with this, there is the neuroscience shows more and more clearly now the essential role that the vagus nerve is playing, the vagus nerve that connects the brain with the internal organs in the body. So it makes the connection, it's nerve that makes the connection between the mind and the body. And when the regulating the vagus nerve, it regulates physically the body. When we are in distress, when we are stressed out, when we are afraid, when we are in terror, when we are furious, if we pause to notice the body physically, we notice tightness in our chest, we notice squeezing our belly, we notice the headaches, we notice the throat and the inability to speak. We notice, as they say in the trauma treatment, the body keeps the score. Okay, so it has the reaction in the body, and that reaction, sometimes it gets imprinted and it's left in there until it's completely cleared out. So the breathing, it's essential for the body. It's essential for our feelings, our emotions. And the most clear example is with anxiety and anxiety or panic attacks. So when we are very anxious, very tense, to the extreme with a panic attack, we don't breathe well. We breathe very fast, very superficially. We hyperventilate. There is not enough oxygen going to our brain. And this cycle is getting faster and faster. And it's very distressing because the symptoms of a panic attack are very similar to a heart attack. So we literally feel that we are going to die in that moment, not knowing that it's a panic attack, and nobody's dying of a panic attack, and it's not a heart attack. So the essential aspect when we experience this intense distress is, first of all, to calm down the breathing. Notice the breathing and allowing it to come back to a natural pace, calming, natural pace. That it's regulating, again, it's regulating our whole state, the body, our thoughts. I'm safe, I'm calm, everything is all right, and the anxiety, it's getting into calmness and peaceful feelings. Okay, and it's also connected, of course, the soul. And again, I will mention about this aspect, especially the body and the soul. Now, psychology originally is the science of the soul. So if we take the soul or the consciousness out of psychology, it's like we take the heart out of the body. We will be very limited. And if we try to explain everything just with the mind, that limits us even more. So it's very important, again, to keep these components together in unity. Having said that, my expertise as a therapist is primarily in the connection between all of them, but I'm not a physician, so I'm not an expert in the body and medicine, and I'm also not an expert in religion or theology. My knowledge comes from the connection between psychology and spirituality in this regard. There are many approaches in psychology that directly talk about these aspects, especially the field of transpersonal psychology. And I will talk in different presentation about the amazing work also of Dr. David R. Hawkins with the map of consciousness. So I will talk about that, but when it's about the practical aspects, where I will only refer to my personal direct experience as a person, as Sophia, not as an expert in the field, presenting some of the methods and practices that I'm personally using, but it doesn't mean that I have the expertise in them. For example, if I have COVID, I could have the experience of COVID, but doesn't make me an expert in COVID. Okay, so this is the difference. Okay, I can talk about my direct personal experience, but I'm not a guru, I'm not a spiritual leader, I'm not just me. That's enough. So whatever I'm saying, just please take it if it resonates with you, and leave it if it doesn't resonate with you. And because of the length of our presentations, I will also, every time I'm talking about something, keep in mind that it's just one little aspect. It's like in that story with the elephant and the 20 blind men around the elephant, and each of them is an expert in the elephant, and they try to describe and help others understand what the elephant is. But of course, they are blind and they have a small perception of one part of the elephant. One is touching the tail, another one the ear, another one the foot. But as experts, they are firmly convinced that they know what the elephant is. And they fight with one another because they are convinced. They are convinced that what they perceive at that moment is the elephant. Well, knowing the story, I would never pretend that I know the whole elephant. The elephant is not, it's not even only the sum of the parts of all the perceptions of the blind man put together. It's so much more than that. So to capture truly the essence of what the elephant is, it's a very high endeavor. So on my part, each of these presentations, it's a full disclaimer that I'm just presenting one small aspect with what I perceive at that moment. And again, it's never the whole. But at the same time, I always keep the whole in mind. So I will have a separate part of this presentation about the breathing methods, with describing specifically in very practical terms a method of breathing that I've been using with my clients in my practice for many, many years, and especially I've been using for myself for even more years. It's called the square breathing technique. and I will describe it in the second part of this video. I was mentioning about this whole and breathing as an essential aspect, again, for the body, for regulating our feelings and thoughts, and also for our connection with whatever you want to call it, soul or consciousness or whatever it is that it's beyond us. And as I was describing in a previous presentation, we are just a cell in a bigger body. So whatever the bigger organism, bigger body it is, however you want to call it, it's your choice. I would try to stay away from names because names are just concepts, and they could often remove us far away from what the real thing is, the way it is. So the connection with the soul, again, psychology is the science of the soul. Psychology, in my view, same as science, cannot be disconnected from consciousness or from the soul. If we do that, we limit ourselves extremely. In my personal view, science, including psychology, is just a gradual, slow revelation of the divinity, of what it is, the way it is, and whether we understand it or not, it's still the way it is, just like the gravity law. Before it was discovered or put in the manuals of physics and taught in school, if you jump into a hole, you would fall and maybe break your leg. So the gravity has been there before science name it or considered it as for what it is. Now, when we do know the laws of the universe and when we do understand them and we align ourselves with them, of course, we make our life and our existence much more pleasant and better. When we go against that, out of lack of knowledge or understanding or pure ignorance, then we have a greater deal of suffering in the process. So, in terms of the connection between breathing and the soul, it reminds me of a little story that I read from one of my favorite mystics, Anthony de Mello, an Indian Catholic mystic. And he described the story of a priest who was working very, very, very hard in trying to reach union with God. And he was praying for years, praying hard and trying more and more to be very disciplined in his praying and working very hard and diligently at praying better and more. So eventually he would be able to achieve his life dream, which is to achieve that connection, that union with the divinity. So he went to higher priest that was more experienced and enlightened. And he asked him for advice and guidance, disclosing, confessing that although he's been working so hard with prayer and it's becoming a struggle, and instead of helping him feel more connected to the divinity, there is this sense of separation and hardship that he wants instead to have that unity. So the higher priest said, okay, yes, I will help you with this, and we will get back to the prayer aspect. But for now, I will invite you, and this is exactly what I'm inviting each of you right now to do, is to take a few moments and just notice your breathing. In and out. Noticing the air coming in. We know from science that we breathe in the air, we breathe in oxygen, and then we breathe out carbon dioxide, the residual, whatever it's processed, it's burned, it's not needed from the body, we breathe it out. So we breathe in fresh new life, oxygen, and we breathe out residual stuff that's no longer needed by our body. All of this flow is going on, this cycle in and out. Most of the time we are not even aware of it. And we also know that when we connect with nature, being made just in the right way, we know that plants and trees, through the process of photosynthesis, they take in the carbon dioxide, whatever we release and we no longer need, they take it in and they turn it into oxygen that we further take in and we need it for our own life. Okay, so when we are, no wonder when we are in nature, we everything becomes better and healthier. We connect with the natural mechanisms of the universe. We are in sync, aligned with them, and this is helpful for our own health and well-being. So back to the story with the high priest and the priest looking for connection with God. It was advised, okay, just continue to notice your breathing, in and out, in and out. And now imagine that when you breathe in, the air that you breathe in is God. You breathe in God and notice that experience. And you hold Him in. And then you breathe out all the worries, all the stresses, all the pains, everything that you no longer need, that you want to free yourself from. And you put it in the hands of God. Just like the trees, He will transform emotional, mental, carbon dioxide into fresh, new oxygen and life, filling you with it again. Okay, and this is what I will describe later on about the square breathing. So we breathe in God, we hold Him in, and we release, we free all our worries, all our pains. And we let them, we pause again, letting them be transformed into fresh new life. Breathe again. Holding. And go, breathing out. And this is the story where the higher priest said, this is the prayer. And if you know about the Lord's Prayer, the prayer of the heart that is used in Christianity, and it connects with this breathing. So it uses the same mechanism of breathing in God, and have mercy on me. Jesus, Lord, have mercy on me. Jesus, Lord, Son of God, have mercy on me. So this is again one little example with the connection with the spirituality, that they're all connected. And I will come back with the second part of this video, describing in very practical terms how to do one of the breathing techniques that is very efficient and works very fast. The more we practice it, the faster and easier it works in reestablishing our emotional, mental balance, physical balance, and spiritual one as well. So the square technique with a bubble tea straw, and I will come back to describe it.